I am. Last week it's not a week, but last time I talked about frugality, and I continue to talk about frugality. It's important. Mostly I would like to just speak about what is frugality, what is it in relation to life, what does it mean to be frugal, what does it mean to one's life to be frugal. I don't believe somebody who is focused on acquiring a lot of material things, a lot of money, a lot of anything, capable of being frugal. I think frugality is something that comes with a spiritual understanding about how to live life in a gentle way on the planet. It doesn't come to a person who marches across the planet oppressing, hurting, beating things down for their sake of enjoyment or entertainment. It comes because one recognizes the importance of caretaking and offering to this universe that we've been born into. So frugality is a practice. It is a practice of trying to not expend wasted energy, to try to contain energy and to use it and to express it and to offer it in the purest, in the most dense way one can possibly offer it. Frugality is the practice of building energy, of creating and offering more energy to those around rather than taking it for oneself. So how does that apply to money? Because frugality is mostly placed in the realm of finances. It applies because buying things that are just for the sake of vanity, for the sake of self-commendation, for the sake of for the sake of vanity, for the sake of impressing, for the sake of trying to be more famous or trying to make even more money than one has, is not a frugal practice. Frugality is about conserving energy. It is about conserving energy for the sake of offering energy. Conserving energy for the sake of creating energy. Of conserving energy for the sake of sacrifice. Sacrifice is a definitely important part of it. To sacrifice for the sake of others and to sacrifice in order to offer is frugality. I practice frugality. I'm not perfect at anything, but I practice frugality, and practice means to try to attain perfection. Do I believe anybody is perfect at frugality? I don't think so. I can have somebody come to me and prove me wrong and say I'm frugal and then show me that they are frugal, but it's not necessary. Mostly it's all my own personal holographic perception that helps me understand this. It really doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. It has to do with me, and has to do with my death dance, and it has to do with my death, and it has to do with my passing from this realm. My whole practice is to keep from stealing as much and as little energy as I possibly can, and to dance to my death while giving all of that energy to the universe. And that is frugality. I think that the start of my frugalness came because of my mother. My mother was a very stingy person. It was very difficult because of her upbringing, because of who she was, to spend money on anything. So I did not receive much in my childhood. I did receive a lot of insults and hurt, and those I've turned into my beneficence. But my mother was stingy. I have this picture of her when I would want something in my young enthusiasm to attain and to acquire something material like a toy, car, rocket ship, something. And my mother, when she bought it, would have this whole ritual that showed how little and how much she didn't want to pay for it, and how much she didn't want to give up her precious dollar to pay for it. It made me so uncomfortable to watch her that I chose never to ask for anything. It didn't take long, but it took long enough. I practiced not desiring anything because I couldn't tolerate, I couldn't watch her suffer so much in the loss of her dollar bill. Her slowness of acquiring her wallet. The way she would look and peer into her dollar bills because they're so precious, and she was sad to have any of them disappear like little children that she was tendering. How she would take it out one by one. She would never ever take out a bunch and then count it off. She would take one by one out of her wallet because each one was a precious one that she didn't want to give up. And then how she would behave towards the clerk, how she would give the money, and how little she would support me in the acquirement of the tool, toy, whatever I was yearning for at that moment. It was painful. That was my beginning of frugality. That was my teacher. She taught me that in my sensitivity not to feel so strongly for her loss of money that I stopped asking for things from her. I couldn't watch this show. From that point, it was just a matter of a continuous poorness, I guess, of lack of income, of lack of money. That just taught me how little I needed to be happy, and how much I had in my heart, how much I had in my talents that enabled me not to need anything else. How how much joy I could have with a pen and a piece of paper without having a set of oil pencils or oil paints or acrylic paints or watercolor. And I could enjoy the drawing of a picture with a pencil, the most efficient use of finances to buy something that turned into something quite creative and lovely in my pencil drawings, which I did when I was younger. I don't know if any do survive or will survive my death. They existed and they disappeared. I think I copied a couple of them for my computer. I think they're there somewhere. So I was very used to not desiring many things, many material things. When it came to a point where I was so desirous of something, then I saved for it. I saved carefully, and I saved with an intent that was based on getting that. I cannot say that I did that well when I was young. I made mistakes. I bought too much stuff. I didn't buy as much stuff as a lot of people around me, but I bought too much stuff for what I was practicing. I bought things that were useless. I went to entertainment that was useless. I would have much rather sat home and played the violin than gone to see this concert of reproduced music that I couldn't care less about anymore. But there was a social aspect to it. To show up at a show, to show up at a concert, to show up at the bar, to show up at a cafe, meant that you met a friend, or you were being seen out in public, and then there was this opportunity to be famous and well known amongst all these people who'd say, "Oh, I just saw blah blah." As each of these needs fell away, I became more frugal. One could also say that's reclusive, and it is. Frugality and reclusiveness have a pairing. I don't go to cafes. I rarely, if ever, go to clubs anymore. I used to go to clubs. My intent to go to clubs, however, was not social. It was almost a workout. I also enjoyed the fact that I would tear up a dance floor. I still can. I can go to a club of people who are so much younger than I and tear up the dance floor. I love that. That was part of my creative expression too. Of course, it costs to go into a club. It costs in many different ways. So I ended up going out to hills, rocks. In fact, that was a better club than the club, because the rock and the trees and the butterflies and the bees started to speak to me when I would go out and dance with them. They would dance with me, some of them. So that when I went to walkabouts here in Bali, and I would go out into the jungle and play, I would play to the spiders, butterflies. I was already prepared. I was all ready for the butterfly dance around me. I was ready to dance with the butterflies. I was ready to dance. Mosquitoes don't dance. They just sit on you and suck away your blood. They are more of the non-frugal types, greedy. So frugality has been a historic practice for me, growing towards more expression of frugality, towards a less greediness, towards more expression of my talent and heart. Because by not focusing on desiring this or that, I could focus on creating this or that. And thus, I can manifest, for instance, an album of music. I can manifest an album of music. I can manifest a drawing. Pen and ink is what I love doing. I can manifest this. I don't have to go out and buy an art book of pen and ink drawings. I don't have to go out and buy a full and giant book of Picasso prints or Van Gogh prints or Fairweather prints or any of these beings. They've done their work. I am doing mine, so I let them alone. I, in fact, find that the purchasing of these books to be a non-frugal act. It is the act of giving up that energy which could be used in doing one's own art. I dance on the woods, I dance in the rocks, I dance on the paths, I dance wherever I can dance. I make music wherever I can make music. I sing down the paths, I beat rhythms against the walls as I pass by. This is all offering, this is all what I do. And I always experience people trying to shut it down. They'd rather I bought stuff. I can find it very much their attempt to oppress me, to oppress my expression, to oppress my ability to manifest and not have to buy their trash, not have to buy their things, all the things that everybody produces in order to have me get addicted to buying. I don't have to do that. I have to create, and I do. Writing, I have to say though, I read a lot, but I read gently. I use libraries. I support libraries. I believe in libraries, so I read gently. I don't go out and buy tons of books, as I just said. I buy what I like to read, and then I give it away. There's no reason to hold on to a book. I have no books. I own no books. I am a book.